reply correctly to you right now as I'm fixing up the background. Let's make sure we get this done right, appropriately so for, of course, what is it? Another episode, another installment, another edition of Yap Break Radio. That's right, me, who this here, at who this is one on the YouTube. First, always for the vertical lives. I promise, I swear to God, please don't hold me accountable for it, but I am guilty otherwise of not pulling clips just yet from the live streams. I've been trying to play catch up in general with most of my content, if not all of it. So I will be doing that soon enough, clipping clips from the live streams here, Yap Break Radio. Otherwise, of course, we are here live. Again, at who this is one is, of course, where you can find me for more shit about just, in general. Video versions of my podcast, clips, whatever I post up here from streams, from whatever else I do as well in general. I'm like a potpourri. I got a lot going on. I tend to do a lot. Probably a lot more than I should at one time, but still, that doesn't matter here regardless though, right? It's Monday, so it's all of a new week. It's January 12th as we speak right now. Welcome in if you're just tuning in right now live, and or if you're watching back on the playback whenever it's to your convenience. That's the beauty of the internet. That's the beauty of technology right now. You don't want to watch right now. You want to save it for later when you got some downtime, coffee, a little bite to eat, something like that. You do what you got to do. Or maybe you save it for some time when you're going to set that aside during your day to do this thing called shaving. Because goddamn, it's time for me to shave yet again. Yes, the top of my head. Yes, because I'm bald, and to my benefit, I should be shaving more often. This, keep a cleaner appearance. But I am in Brooklyn, so it's okay to look a little shaggy. Anybody out here dressing to the nines, their absolute best in Brooklyn, is really just trying to make themselves seem more important than what they are. I'm sorry, I just call it how it is. It's Queens where you got to keep a better looking maintenance or better looking appearance, if anything. That's me speaking, though. I am from Queens, so, I uphold that place a lot more. I have a lot more respect. So when I was in Queens last week, Monday to be specific, for a doctor's appointment, the foot doctor, nothing serious. I'm not dying here, nothing. I was already clean shaven, presentable enough to the doctor, to everybody I had to interact with, the staff and the pharmacy and such, so everything was good on that end. But as far as I'm concerned, Brooklyn gets what it can take as far as my appearance, my maintenance, my grooming. But I will be shaving probably tonight, if not tomorrow after the gym. I gotta go to the gym in the morning. The morning is the best time to do it. I used to be one of those, not because I loved it so much, because I would just get so lazy, as I'm sure a lot of us are guilty of doing, of going to the gym late at night, because obviously prime time is, not so much now because it's still New Year-ish territory where a lot of all of a sudden, New Year resolution, I'm going to the gym, New Year, new me, whatever, they're still there. So you gotta give it like a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks out of January before you can go back to normal with your schedule without having to bump into somebody at the gym. They're doing their thing for the first time ever. They don't know how to lift. I like to give out little freebies and tips, of course, but it can get annoying at some points. But, you weed them out. You wait until like February just to be safe, and then the gym is yours again. All the New Year resolution folks, they're high and done by that time, if anything. So yeah, I'm going to the gym in the morning. I'm making, not my New Year resolution. I've been doing that since the year started, so I'm making sure to go in the mornings from now on. I used to love going at night, but you have to go either super early or super late to avoid the people. And you can get a free bench, a free machine, whatever the case is. In the comments, Freddy Insano XD-E1. I don't know what the fuck is going on with these names on YouTube, but all right. I guess maybe that is your name on YouTube. Hi, how are you? Your name, what's your name? What the fuck? Well, no, my name is not what the fuck. It's who this. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live. Welcome for first time ever. I don't recognize your name, so first time ever I'm seeing you here. But hello, back to you. I'm doing good. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're doing better than me, probably. Maybe if you don't need to shave, or if you do shave, you shave more often than I do. As you can see right here, I need to do a better job of my appearance, at least. Probably shouldn't have clicked live looking the way I do, shaggy and unkempt as I am, but still. That's the whole point of Yap Break Radio. We just get on here to chat, to yap, and talk our shit as per se. That's really what we're doing out here. Right, what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, right. So the gym, That's a morning thing. So everything tomorrow morning, before the crack of dawn, I wake up, I go to the gym, I come back, I shower, and then I'll shave to clean up, look presentable. Or maybe it's like that old, mindset or saying, you gotta look presentable enough for the day to take on the day with as much courage as you need, something of that sort. So I'm no guru, I'm not trying to be anything, no savant or talk like I know more than I really do beyond that. I'm not trying to do any of that shit at all. I'm just here talking my shit, if anything. But yeah, Yap Break Radio, we're live again. It's Monday. It's not too bad. I'd say it's one of those. Like, that's also a thing with the Brooklyn, and Queens too. Very guilty. The last place I lived in Queens, the last building, had that just humongous issue of just inside would tend to be colder than outside was. That's the crazy part. It's not like I'm ashamed to admit that because it wasn't my fault. I didn't build the building the way it was, but it was ill distributed as far as like when it would get windy, especially when it was cold. Since I've been in that building for years before I moved up to Buffalo, the wind would just kind of creep, slip its way in through the cracks from the outside inside. So, outside it might be not too bad, not too windy, not too cold like that, but because the wind would slip in right that through the cracks, come inside and had no way of getting back out, oddly enough, then I'm stuck inside, having to put on fuzzy socks, long johns, sweatpants, a hoodie inside just to work since I work remotely from home. That would suck a lot. But now, on top of that, too, this building where my mother in law lives in Brooklyn, it ain't necessarily new either. You can tell, all right, it ain't so new, like within the last 20, 30 years even, but maybe like, I'd say like maybe 50, something like that. It's not too old, not too new, but it's just one of those like I think initially they built it with like its own, what do you call it? Like its own air conditioner unit that was available initially when they built it to whoever lived there prior. Either that person ripped it out, or at some point the people that maintained the building like just took the whole thing out, left a hole, patched it up as best as half-ass as they could, but forgot to fill in the cracks along the hole that was left from the prior air conditioning unit. So that's a head scratcher. That is a blunder, obviously, but it leaves you to wonder, well, why the fuck put it in the first place, or why end up taking it out if it wasn't going to look, cosmetically pleasing to begin with, or someone complained about the way it looked or made too much noise, God knows what. And then also, apparently, according to my mother in law, as she was told, apparently, the person that lived here before her in this apartment actually was one of those that would experiment on like the electricity, the cables and such inside, and apparently took it upon themselves to like rearrange, like format the wiring and like some outlets. So like this side of the apartment has functioning outlets where you can plug in stuff and it'll actually work and or turn on or charge. And then the other whole wall, like towards the outside of the building, I don't want to say has no electricity, but I think he fucked, or he, she, they, them, it, whatever, fucked too much with the outlets, tinkered with the cables, and just, killed everything on that side. Because not one outlet on that side behind me works at all. Like you plug anything in, doesn't turn on whatsoever. Now, if I cared enough, maybe I'd buy one of those little kits that kind of test like I don't know what you call it. I'm not an electrician. Like the pulses, or if it's got a charge going, plug it in to see if anything's there, and then maybe I could YouTube it, Google it, Chat GPT it to see how to fix that outlet. Of course, probably rubber gloves to not conduct electricity, not shock myself, of all places in Brooklyn. Even though oddly enough, we are, in case, God forbid I need it, in case we are walking distance from a hospital, an ER if needed. But then again, Brooklyn in general, it's to your benefit you got the ER nearby, just in case, because, it's Brooklyn, still gentrified, sure, a lot of it, not all of it. I wouldn't even say most of it. A good part of it as of now is already. But it's getting there, let's just say that. Then again, that might explain why Brooklyn-wise, like, I would rather much be found dead, if anything, as the saying goes, in either Gowanus and or at least like Dumbo, directly under the Manhattan Bridge overhead, something like that, instead of any other place else, especially where we are right now, which is way too far away from anything. Like, you gotta get on the train just to get on the bus to, cut some of the distance, the middle ground between, point A, point B, because it's not even point A, point B. It's like point A all the way out to point Z, how far and how deep in Brooklyn, excuse me, my mother-in-law decided to live. But then again, ethnically speaking, I don't think she really had a choice because at least she's more around her people, the Russians specifically. So she's more familiar with the language. They understand what she's talking about. She can actually speak to some people randomly. She feels like doing so. So to her benefit, at least, there is that to consider. Otherwise, let's see. Okay, so what are we doing right now? Right, so whole point of Yap Break Radio today is, as you can see in the title of the live, if you bother to take a look at it, or actually, as I should probably pin in the comment section, I forgot to do, so I apologize for that. Let me do so right now. God damn it. If it would let me do it right now, I could do that. There we go. And then we pin that bitch for the 3 count. Yeah. So there we go. We're talking today about Mero, one half of the former comedy entertainment duo Desus Mero, officially announcing early today that he will now be a part of, not just a part of, actually, excuse me, let me walk that back. He will be the voice of the morning show as of tomorrow, Tuesday, January 13th, here locally, Hot 97. He'll be in the morning show from 6 to 10 a.m. as he cleared up during, I was going to say stream. No, he just posted up something on Instagram, and then that went kind of, I guess, viral locally, which I'll be clear and upfront. I am more of a late bloomer. I kind of caught on late to the brand, to Desus and Mero in general. So I am a fan. Mero is very funny, so is Desus, but together that is the bundle deal ideally you'd want for any case scenario, especially, I would think, them being born and raised in New York, specifically the Bronx, they would have only dreamed of ever being like the morning show in charge of Hot 97, keeping the station on air, afloat, ratings high, and all that shit. Obviously, they had their split, which apparently was uglier than what we were led on to believe initially when it comes to Mero being more vocal about wanting to do things apparently as a brand, as a collective together, versus Deezus wanting to kind of play smarter with the moves and move up the chain a little wiser, not so immediately for the sake of trying to get some money off of some, apparently, as far as I've been told or informed, quick ad reads, quick bags, as I guess Mero would put it. Understandably so, because the man does have, like 4 kids or something like that. So a lot of kids, Dominican typical. On top of that, married a Jewish girl, hey, they're no strangers to big families. So, Dominican and a Jewish person together, you shouldn't be too surprised if they have at least, bare minimum, like 4 to 5 kids. I'm just saying. Understandably so on his end, he wants to pursue the bag when he's still with Desus and or now especially solo since they went their separate ways, of course. Desus has been more quiet as far as the moves he's made. He has popped up as, a guest host for, what was it, The Daily Show, I think Jimmy Kimmel once or twice as well. Questionable as far as if he did good or not. I wouldn't say great. And it showed as a sore spot, him needing his bro, Mero in that case, to kind of bring out the best he has to offer. Not saying he was bad. It was just like, kind of expect a little more. And then also you got to keep in mind, he's got to keep up with, network standards. The FCC can't really be as freely spoken as it used to be, alongside Mero or, Bodega Boys and Showtime and Vice and everything afforded to them previously. And you got Mero, who's been doing kind of this and that and the other and, kind of, again, as you could safely assume, the quicker, more instantly gratifiable bags as a father of multiple children would in terms of wanting to secure some futures for them immediately, for the long term, for the long run as well. I totally get all that. But as far as Mero signing on to be the new morning show host for Hot 97, I wanted to touch on that because locally, at least here in New York, in the five boroughs, NYC, New York City, even, maybe even New York State, who knows? It's big news, it's good news, but is it more than what Hot 97 could even expect? Because if anything, it's a buzzworthy name, of course, for the sake of Hot 97, for the sake of radio, morning show hosts and everything, right? As a fan of radio for the longest time, as a fan of the Bodega Boys for a significant amount of time, as a fan of Mero and Desus and Mero individually and such, respectful of what they've done so far with their, I say, short-lived careers. But in the amount of time they've had spent together, they've done a lot more than any other duo, team, group of creators have been able to do with much more time afforded to them and probably many more opportunities afforded or thrown their way, per se, more bags to collect, per se. I want to be respectful and mindful of it because, again, I do like Mero. He's very funny. He's very quick. We all love and appreciate Mero, or you might have had your favorite, amongst the two, Desus or Mero. I always liked Mero more than Desus, but that's me, of course. Desus might have had some takes which I get, but I also think, hey, you're being a little too sensitive, I guess. That's me, of course. Mero becoming the voice of the Hot 97 morning show as of tomorrow, Tuesday, January 13th, 2026. I will think, and I will openly assume by saying my piece, it's more of, and can't blame me for it, I think it's more of getting a bag, more of getting a steady paycheck, more of getting the money needed for a regular gig than it is for the look for either him and or Hot 97. Hot 97 benefits from an immediately recognizable name, locally at least, on that scale, Mero. Ideally, the dream team would have been, imagine we can get Desus and Mero back together. The brand is alive, the brand is strong, the brand is now exclusive on Hot 97 first. And then, of course, that doesn't mean everybody's going to be tuning in like for 4 hours straight every day. Or maybe they will. I would. If it was the two of them together, I probably would too as well. But more so than likely, even though it's Mero on the radio, it's going to be basically be him living off of clips, highlights from each 4 hours per day that he does. Because I believe, I would assume at least, we'll know the details once he goes live tomorrow, officially at 6 a.m. I'm going to be up bright and early to catch ideally every minute of it. While I go to the gym and such, I wanna know the finer details of what's going on here. Because I want to see if one, he's going to be on every single day, two, live every single day, and three, as he said in the promo clip that just released today earlier, if it's going to be 4 days every day. And also, I'd love to understand and know, if he afford us the chance to know, is that a guaranteed payout as far as whatever he's getting paid? Now, I don't need to know how much. That's not my business. That's not yours either. I'd love to think that he's getting a guaranteed amount for a set amount of time versus being reliant on the ratings. Or let's say you'll get this much paid out to you. You get a incentive per se if you get the ratings up to this higher number or close within, at least per quarter and such, because radio is not just a dying format and old man technology at this point. I remember radio, of course, like I mentioned before. I remember, getting the cassette tapes, recording specific songs. I'm old enough to remember having done so, and or radio segments like Howard Stern, like some of the older morning shows from Hot 97 and such. I remember doing all that. I remember radio finally. I never said or I never thought that radio would ever die out, but we are seeing it on like its last, I wouldn't say last couple of breaths, because to rule it out completely as far as dying immediately anytime soon, maybe jumping the gun per se. But instead of, let's say, radio in general, besides Hot 97, shooting itself in the foot right now, I'd say it's more in terms of, let's say, instead of the gun, it decided to take a knife, and it's still slowly trying to figure out which toe, which appendage it's going to choose to stab through and really die slow like that, as far as radio is concerned. in the comments. Lot T Shorts too, I think. If that's how you say it. Ola. Or holla. Holla. I'm gonna say holla holla. Like Ja Rule. Shouts to Ja Rule. But not really. I was never a fan of Ja Rule like that. But holla holla. Holla back at you. Again, I want to be mindful of the move because at some point too, when I was younger, if you would have asked me like 20 years ago, I would have definitely taken a job in radio, especially Hot 97. I would have loved to. Being born and raised in Queens, having that be the local radio station for hip hop, and then only after the fact did Power 105 come to be a thing. And then, of course, competing with Hot for the morning show sakes. And then, of course, Desus Mero had their thing going on against, I think it was Charlemagne partially too, but mainly against DJ Envy. Funny the way it played out. It would have been ironic had maybe at that time, however long ago that was, maybe they would have signed Desus Mero to be the morning show guys or the mid-afternoon guys right after the morning show. Who knows? That could have been interesting. That could have definitely worked, and they would have been together. So that would have been, a real strong selling point for not just the fans of the brand, but also just in general. Oh, local New York guys are doing a mid-afternoon slot. Why not? Tune in, give it a chance and shit. And it would have gone viral. They would have had plenty of clips that would have been worth sharing plenty of times. But now there's just Mero. Is it really that divided as far as, only the Mero fans are going to go towards that shit? Or the ones that felt maybe Mero did Desus dirty after the fact, talking about, he wasn't really about getting the bag, or I think some other personal stuff was going on with Desus at some point too, which Mero kind of like discarded, made no mention of, like never even bothered reaching out to him to like, hey bro, hope you're doing all right. Hope you're not going through it too bad, kind of thing. Apparently, that's what I've been told. That's what I've read. I'm not too sure, and I'm not really too informed on that and the personal inner workings of what happened between them to like cause the breakup like that. I do wish them both success. I do wish them both the absolute best in their respective careers or solo careers. Maybe they could work past these things, maybe get together eventually, at least for one-off specials, one time only, maybe for like, if we ever get a versus that's actually worth headlining, let's say MSG or something like that. I can't even think of who, but maybe they do a versus kind of thing. Maybe they have them both come in as a one-time deal only. They're both doing the commentary for it. That'd be fucking great. One works the back, one works the front, pause. Who knows? They could work something on that level. But I'm waiting to see with bated breath what Mero can do with the morning show moving forward here, Hot 97, locally. I emphasize locally because locally in New York, that is big news because a lot of us are collectively fans of the brand, Desus Mero, Desus individually, however you want to look at it. I do hope for the best for Mero. I think he's got a big uphill battle to look forward to. Not look forward to like he's going to enjoy, but to look out for, to say. Because, again, radio is a dying format. It's fucking dinosaur fossils at this point. It's like you can see the bones sticking out through the meat, basically. It's dying a slow enough death where it's visible, it's oncoming, it's to be expected, but we just don't know when just yet the final death blow is going to be dealt to radio. Because look at satellite radio. Even that didn't take off like people would have imagined, or even I would have thought it would have at some point too. Instead, the internet took over, YouTube, live streaming, all that shit. I'm surprised Desus, also Desus too. I'm surprised Desus ain't live streaming. I'm surprised he's not doing more, at least once a week, like a live stream, like a IG live or something like that. He'd easily, clean up on that shit. Take that live stream, clip it up, clean it up, turn it into a podcast, unofficially of sorts. Easy bag for him, get a couple of spot reads, ad reads, whatever. In comparison to Mero, who's been doing like a ton of different little one-offs, different types of shits, podcasts, spot reads, collabs, all that shit. In the meanwhile, again, understandably so, he's got kids, he's got mouths to feed, excuse me. But it would be great, maybe, if, the blood ain't too bad, to see them back together at some point again. Might be asking for too much. But I will be keeping tabs on Mero and what he ends up doing because I am genuinely interested in seeing how he handles himself. I'm trying to see if what he's got going on, what's to be expected of him in terms of Hot 97 and the morning show. Like 20 years ago, I wouldn't blame him or Desus taking up the gig. That'd still be a big thing because if you think about it, that was like maybe what 2006. Radio's still like maybe breaking stars, making stars, something big, worthwhile. Maybe even 10 years ago, because at least it'd be a bag, at least it'd be some guaranteed pay, steady income. And if you do it for 2 years and maybe you don't do your best within those 2 years or the ratings don't really boost up like that within those 2 years, at least you had your 2 years signed as a morning show. You can always, flex that as part of your resume. Hey, I did the morning show for 2 years, whatever, in the biggest city in the world, da 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 da. Nowadays to do it, it's clearly and most evidently for a bag. And again, no hate on that whatsoever. Get the bag, get whatever bag's tossed at you. Why not? Go for it. Easy lob up for him. Another paycheck, another payday. Let's see how long he's been signed for. Let's see if it's hopefully guaranteed money. And let's see hopefully if it's not reliant on, ratings or Hot 97 having the false expectations I would think of at this point. They should know better yet saying, than to think that that's automatically going to boost them to be, oh shit, we're really out here right now. We've brought radio back to life. We brought radio from like a pulse to hearts beating out the chest like radio's alive again, at least in New York, and then we can go national. We can go syndication with fucking Mero alone. Maybe they could. I would hope that beyond what I feel might happen is an initial 2 to 3 week spike with the first 2-3 weeks of him going live on air for the morning show, spiking. I would hope it can stay at a consistent level where Hot 97 and their new people in charge are happy enough with what they're getting thanks to Mero. They can add more to it. They can give more people to work with. Maybe a bigger budget to like do more things. Anything they got to throw at that man to help him thrive in the morning show slot, I hope they afford that to him. And I hope they paid him enough where he's not going to randomly just walk off the job one day because, the ratings ain't my fault. I got paid anyway and I did y'all a favor. I'm bigger than Hot 97 ever fucking was in like the 2020s and shit. What am I doing? I did y'all a favor. This was me giving back to charity, even doing this gig in the first place. Because it does seem like that too, to be honest. Again, Hot 97, just getting rid of Laura, Ebro, and Rosenberg. Now they're streaming every day for like an hour. I say the one that benefits most is Peter Rosenberg because that man was doing like so many fucking gigs all throughout a day, let alone a week and a month. Where just doing an hour every morning now is probably, keeping his sanity, especially now he's got a kid. Shout out to him having a kid and a wife and all that. All the gigs he's got going on. Laura's cool, I guess. I was never a fan of Ebro like that. Just not my cup of tea. But they're live streaming now. And as I touched upon with Ebro, him saying that, podcast ain't shit, whatever, radio's like still more significant. That's a crazy ass take to have, a wrong ass take to have like that. But oddly enough, I think they just mentioned today on their morning stream that it would turn into a podcast at some point anyway, too. So if it hasn't already. So oddly enough, there you go, Ebro. Showing your whole ass as you do before. And again, that's me speaking as a non-Ebro fan. It just never been my cup of coffee. I've never taken to the man. I don't hate him either. It's just like, I can kind of do without Ebro as a part of my morning rituals, pretty much. And then there's a Breakfast Club to consider. I saw someone in the comments saying, oh, well, they should be given opportunities to younger heads because Mero's old. Not really. 40s, still respectable. Old, but not old, dying, like, falling apart to pieces and shit at the ER, at the urgent care every single day. But more so like, he's young enough to still do plenty of things, get the job done. Oh, but they were saying in the comment, but they should be giving that to the younger people to do that shit. Well, no, because younger people ain't tuning into the radio like that. Unless you live in a fucking absolutely nothing going on in your town type of town where you might be able to drive around and listen to the radio, if that's even a thing anymore. Like, I'm sure radio still come in cars, however new they are, but who's really doing that? Everyone's got the fucking, the Bluetooth linked up to the phone to play the Spotify playlist or Apple, whichever one you use. instead of going to the radio. Only if like maybe you got no signal or something happens to your phone's dead, you forgot to charge it, even though these new cars can probably charge your phone like half the time that your sticking in a wall charger would. Who's listening to the radio like that while they're driving? Unless they have like some sort of emergency broadcast they need to listen to. You're going right to the phone. You're going to whatever your car can sync with the phone to listen to instead of the radio. Come on. It's old. I'm old. I remember radio finally. I remember radios being the only thing to listen to in the car. Before you could plug it in via the cigarette lighter outlet or whatever else you had in the car. Radio was the only thing. I remember that shit, but I'm not gonna denounce it as being the only thing that should matter. No, radio's a dying format. I would have loved to have worked for a radio station 20 years ago, maybe even up until 10 years ago to keep like a steady job, putting on my resume and use that ultimately as a stepping stone towards something else, a bigger company, better opportunity, whatever. Which I think, in conclusion now, Mero might be doing, maybe. Maybe he's holding out or keeping his seat warm at Hot 97 for the morning show until something bigger comes along, or maybe, hopefully, he can get the show syndicated. It goes, it can compete directly with like Big Boy in the Morning, which I think he's definitely more than one market. But shout out to Big Boy, he's been doing his thing. Not particularly a fan, but hey, he's been doing this thing, so you gotta respect that. Maybe he can turn into something. Maybe he could turn into something bigger, and maybe that could be enough pull or attractive enough to bring Mero back, Desus back into the mix, and have them together, sitting on top again, pause, and taking over of all things in 2026 and onwards, radio. Who knows? That's wishful thinking. I would think for the fans, the ones that still want to wish each individual member of the brand the best. I do too, collectively. Let's see what happens though. But I don't know if beyond a 2-3 week initial spike in the ratings, that's me speaking, but that is my gut feeling respectfully. I don't think beyond the 2-3 initial weeks of him being on air spiking in the favor of Hot 97 in the morning show specifically, I don't think we get much more out of Mero besides that. I don't think he's going to make too much of a difference in terms of morning drive radio. Nothing against him. I'm sure he'll still be funny. But then you got to remember too, FCC regulations, you can't say certain things. You got to play a certain amount of songs per hour. You got to do the ad reads, the spot reads, which isn't going to be nothing to him. But then you got to balance all that along with being yourself while self-censoring as well too. I'm sure they'll have the dump button and, the guy on the button, the girl on the button, bleep, 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 whenever needed, or just dump it out whenever needed. But it's still a lot to keep in mind. And on top of that, 4 hours per day, 5 times a week, 20 hours of quote unquote content. All right, if you include the ads and commercials and shit, all right, maybe it's like 2.5 hours a day. But even still, 2.5 hours a day of blabbing, times that by 5, 10 solid hours of just blabbing. How do you stop yourself from repeating yourself, from making the same points, from not, contradicting yourself as well too, keeping all that intact and in memory? It's a lot to ask. Never said radio was easy. It's not. But also, I wouldn't think it's convenient. I think Mero ultimately is above what he got himself into right now with Hot 97. If anything, he's doing them a favor, and most likely they probably paid him a bag, or they slipped him a blank check and said, how much will it take you to be the official host of the morning show moving forward here on 97? Which we know deep down inside, as a New Yorker, as a kid from the Bronx, and all that, we would have wanted to do eventually too. How much will it take? He probably wrote it back to them, slid it over to them. They unfold the shit, they see the amount. Probably big sigh. Thought about it for a quick second. This is how much he wants. Glances back at him. It is Mero. This is how much Mero wants, looking back at the check. Glances back at him. 1/2 of these is a Mero. This is how much it's going to cost for 1/2 of these is a Mero, looking back at the check. Well, glancing back at him. But he would at least bring calculations in the head. I don't know, 30-40% of maybe the audience that used to love and would mark out for Desus Mero content whatsoever, wherever they went to. One lens glance back at the check. That's how much you want, huh? Finally out loud, not to themselves, whoever's negotiating the deal. And then they look back at Mero one last time, locking eyes like, pause. All right, I think we could do this. Handshake, however it went down, sign on the dotted line, and now we got, as of Tuesday, January 13th, 2026, Mero of Desus Mero fame is now officially the voice of the Hot 97 morning show moving forward. Let's see for how long. I wish him much success. I wish him well as a fan, genuinely. I hope he can stay consistent. I hope he doesn't do the Dominican thing and wake up late for the job, even though he's got to be there like before 6, obviously, for a morning show's sake. Or maybe he does it from home. Maybe he doesn't even have to. Oh, wow. That is true. Maybe he doesn't even have to drive in to the city. I don't think Rosenberg and them were even doing it from like the studio. I think they were doing it like from home, whatever. Mero's definitely got a studio set up. He can like have somebody come in, set him up and shit like that to go live from. Literally roll out of bed, throw on whatever's clean enough, and just go on air live from 6 to 10. Maybe it's not so bad a gig after all, at least for however long he does it. God bless him. All the best to him. I'll catch you next time. This is going to do it for me tonight here on Yap Break Radio. I appreciate you tuning in. @WhoThisIs1 here for every live edition, first and foremost, for Yap Break Radio here on YouTube Live Verticals, beacons.ai/WhoThisIs1 for all the links, and @WhoThisIs1 on the socials to catch me wherever you got to find me. Appreciate you. Catch you next time.